And I'm also going to pin myself so that we stay on my, okay. Everybody, Cheryl, can you see okay today? You're muted. You could just nod your head one way or the other, yes or no?
Yes,
Okay,
I understand. Thanks.
Okay, good. So we'll everybody okay with this? Okay, so I'm going to do the problem, and then I'm going to discuss, because unless they change it this year, and I haven't been informed that there's going to be a change. Both the midterm and the final exam are multiple choice tests. So I want to also, aside from reviewing how to do a problem, you may know how to do a problem, but you might get stuck. So it's always a good idea to have a backup. In other words, if I have 4 choices, can I at least eliminate some of the choices so that if I have to guess, then at least I have a better chance of guessing. You're more likely to guess correct if you only have 2 choices to guess from rather than 4. So that I'm going to talk about that in terms of this problem as well. So that's going to be one of the things we're going to do. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this problem the way I would do it if it's what we call an open-ended question. If it was just given without any answers and I had to solve it. And we remember that we want to bring the x's always to the left side and the numbers to the right side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to minus this 11 from both sides. I mean, you don't have to do it in this order. You could do it in any order you want to do it. You could have first moved the x's. If I subtract 11 from both sides, I get 6x greater than or equal to 5x. And 18 minus 11 is 7. And then I want to bring the 5x to the other side. So I'm going to, since it's a positive 5x, I'm going to minus 5x from both sides. And 6x minus 5x is 1x or x, which is greater than or equal to, now this cancels out, 7. I don't have to go any further. And remember, since I did no division or multiplication by a negative number, my inequality stayed in the same order. And if I want to draw this on a number line, here would be my 0. My 7 would be over here. Since this is greater than or equal to, we made it into a filled in circle. And the arrow is pointing to the right. So our arrow points to the right. Notice that we have that always works if the x is on this side of the inequality. If the x is on the wrong side of the inequality, this whole rule doesn't work. Of course, if we wanted to write this in interval notation, whereas our interval always starts on the left side, the first left-hand number we see is the 7. It's going all the way to the right, which means it's going to infinity. And we know at the infinity part, we always have to put a parentheses. At the 7, since it's a filled in circle, because this was a greater than or equal to, it included the 7 there's when we make the bracket. And I see whoever sent in the answer in the chat, they actually picked choice C, which is the correct choice. So that's how we would do this problem and pick choice. Just as again, just a little bit of a way of practicing what to do with multiple choice problems. I looked at this. It said greater than or equal to, which means I know that with that, I'm going to have a bracket. So I could have immediately eliminated choice D and choice A. A and D don't have brackets. They only have regular parentheses on both sides. So really, my two choices would only be B and C. Do you see, if I think about the problem ahead of time, I could have automatically eliminated some choices, and that would have helped me in picking the right choice. Again, that's the really correct way is to actually solve it the way we learned how to solve it. But sometimes you're in a bind and you're not sure what to do. Even in that case, you probably can get rid of some of the choices. And then when you go to solve the problem, at least you can have a better chance of guessing on the right answer. Okay, now I had given you 3 problems to do for homework that were on the board, and I said I'm going to ask people to volunteer to do the problem either, and there are a couple ways you could do it. If you have it written out and you have a way of getting your camera on what you have written out, then then we could do it that way. Or if you have it on your screen and you want me to do a screen share, I can let you do a screen share. Or if you just want to direct me as to what to do, then we can do it. Okay, so I see Jennifer, you have volunteered. So let me see if I can find you so I can pin you on. Okay, and Emma, you want to do the second one. Okay, let me see. So we're looking for Jennifer. Here you are, Jennifer. Okay, so I'm going to pin you now, okay? Are you unmuting yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you want, well, let me ask you.
I'm gonna tell you, like, you can write it on the board.
Okay, so then I'm gonna go back and pin myself so that everybody can see what I'm doing. And
Okay.
we'll just listen to you.
Because I don't know how I would show you through my notebook and my camera because I'm on my laptop.
Which way, okay, so you mean do you want to do it with that way or do you want to tell me?
Yeah, I'll just do it that way. It's easier.
Which way?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna write out the problem and I'll tell you.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you know what I did? I pinned us both. Is everybody able to see what I'm doing? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Just like this?
Is this too small? Should I just do myself large?
Yes.
Okay. We'll go back to that. Okay, I have to remove this pin. I'm still, okay. So I'm going to erase this and I'm going to listen what Jennifer says. And I have to tell you, anybody who contributes like this, it gets written down in my little black book, so to speak. I'm going to put it down and keep track so that sometimes you need an extra point or two just to when you're figuring out your final grade. And therefore, I'm just going to call this as extra credit. What did I just do? I went small. Okay, so, and I am ready, Jennifer.
Okay.
So do you want me to write the problem down?
Yeah, it's 7x plus 5.
Right.
Greater than equal to.
Oh, you're doing number 15.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll let you do number 15. We had a number 4 to do as well.
Let me see.
But you're doing number 15? Okay. So this is 7x. This was the second one that I had given. 7x plus 5 is greater than or equal to,
4x plus 20.
okay,
Okay, so what I did was I started to move my numbers from the left to the right. So I subtracted 5 from 20.
is that how you did it?
Yeah.
Okay,
So then the 5s cancel out. Then I got 7x is greater than or equal to 4x plus 5.
plus,
Is it plus? I got 15.
right, 15.
Yeah.
Right. Plus a positive 20 and a negative 5 gives you 15. That's correct.
Okay, so then I got rid of the 4, so I did negative 4,
Negative 4x, right?
4x minus negative 4x there. That gave me 3x is greater than or equal to 15. I divided by 3. X is greater than or equal to 5.
Okay, Jennifer, I see you left this as greater than or equal to. Why didn't you change the direction of
I
them?
now because I should have changed it the opposite way because we divided.
No, you were right the first time. You should
Oh,
have changed it. When do you change it when you
when there's a
divide?
negative, when you divide
Right.
by
Are we
negative.
dividing by a negative?
No.
No, we're dividing by a positive, so we leave it the same. Okay.
So you
I
want me to
asked
give
you,
you the graph line
yeah,
and okay, so you do the graph, you have your 0, then you have your 5, you do a circle on top, fill it in, and the arrow points to the right to infinity. And then you have the brackets, that's what it's called. You 5, the little dash thing in the bottom to infinity, close parentheses.
perfect. That is beautiful. She explained it very well and she did it perfectly correctly now. Are we all okay with this? Any questions?
Just thank you, Jennifer, for like sharing. It's great.
No problem.
Okay. So Emma, you were gonna do which one, Emma, which one
I
are
can
you
just do the
gonna do?
next one down the line because I want to do the one with the number line.
You wanna do the one with the number line, so you wanna do what I call number 16.
I'm calling it number 3, but yeah.
Yeah, it was number 3. It was the number 3 in the homework.
Yeah.
Can I erase this now? How do you want to do it? Do you want to do it?
I want to do it the same way.
Okay. I think that worked beautifully.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay. Before Emma starts, we still have the first question not done. So by the time we finish with this one, I'd like somebody to volunteer for that.
The first question is the ones with all the parentheses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an equation. It's not an inequality, just a regular.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this problem is 3, open parentheses, 2x plus 1, close parentheses, negative 4, greater than 9, just a negative, open parentheses, 1, negative 3x, close parentheses.
Mind you, these are subtraction signs, not negatives, but it doesn't matter. When you're reading it, of course, they look exactly like, so this is fine. This is the question.
Copy that. So I'm going to start with the first parentheses. So 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times 1 is plus 3. So now I'm going to bring down the rest of that equation. So that's negative 4 is greater than 9. And now I'm going to deal with the next parentheses. So that's going to be a negative 1
Right. Remember that when there's just a plain negative in front of a parentheses, it's as if it's multiplying everything by -1.
Yeah. So -1 plus 3x
Right, because -1 times 1,
times is gonna become a positive.
right, and it's going to become a plus 3x. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
So now I have to combine my like terms, right? So
Correct.
my like terms on the left side are +3 and -4. So I'm going to bring down the 6x, and then I'm going to turn that into a -1.
Correct.
Then I'm going to bring down the greater than sign, 8 plus 3x.
How did you get eight?
So, oh, sorry, I have to combine on the right side now. So that's 9 minus 1. So that's 8. Sorry about that. Plus 3x. So now I want to get my x on the left side. So I'm going to do that by minusing 3x from the right side. And also minusing 3x from the left side. So that leaves me with 3x on the left side, -1 greater than 8. Now I got to bring that -1 to the right side. So I'm going to plus 1. So that leaves me with 3x is greater than 9. So then I have to divide the equation by 3x. So that leaves me with x is greater than 3. So I'm going to draw that on my number line.
I don't want to go any lower. Okay. So we got x greater than 3. Okay. On my number line.
I'm gonna put an open circle because it's not the symbol with the line underneath it over the 3. And I'm doing it to the right, towards infinity. So the way I'm gonna write that is open left parentheses 3, comma, and positive infinity, close parentheses.
Beautiful. Perfect. Okay. Everybody okay with that? Anybody have any questions for Emma? Okay, so now we have the first question that I'd given you, which was number 4 on the sheet. Is it who is volunteering for that? Let me look on the chat if somebody volunteered. I see. Is anybody willing to volunteer for that? These people did a great job. Can anybody do another problem? Does that mean I have to do it? Okay, Layla, thank you. Okay, do you want to do it the same way they did it?
Yeah, I'll do the same way.
Okay, so I'm going to erase this now.
Okay.
And I'm going to write the problem on the board, and then you're going to tell me what to do.
Okay.
Okay, so the problem was 3 parentheses 2x minus 1.
Yes. Minus 4x plus 3 equal to 5x minus 7x plus 1 in parentheses.
Okay. And this is not let me just mention, this is an equation that we're solving. You don't have to do any graphing on this. You just have to come up with an answer. Again, This is very typical of the type of question. We're right at the point where we've already done this week 2 types of questions that might appear on the midterm and the final. I'll keep repeating that. I know I'm not just teaching for a test, but it's good to know, hey, we've got this under our belt. We can count on having this many questions correct on the final or on the midterm. Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
All right. So we're gonna multiply that 3 by 2x, which is gonna give me 6x minus 3,
Right.
3 multiplied by 1, minus and then we're gonna we're gonna put the 4x plus 3 the same because we're gonna multiply it by 1. Yeah, the invisible one. I don't know what to call it.
So that's going to give us.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it the same, 4x plus 3.
Wait,
Because we multiply by 1, so it's gonna be the same.
what's the sign?
Oh, the same sign, minus.
So what are we multiplying by?
I'm sorry?
What are we multiplying by?
By 1,
By positive 1?
negative 1.
Right. Okay. So let's see what you get when you multiply by negative 1.
Negative 4.
X.
X minus 3.
Right. Don't forget that attached to the sign is the number, or the number, and they are one unit. It's not a 1 separately and a negative separately. It's negative 1.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go to the.
And then we're gonna put the 5x the same. And then we're gonna multiply negative 1 by 7x.
Okay, so there again, it's that same situation. There's no number, so you put a 1,
Yeah.
negative 1.
Which is gonna give us negative 7x. And then negative 1.
Perfect. Okay.
And then now we're gonna collect the like terms, which we have 3x, and then we have 5. No, I think no, we're not gonna do the 5x.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember that we're just going to start on this side. We're not going to worry about that side.
Yeah. The 6x and then the 4x. I didn't see the 4x. Okay. And then we're gonna have 2x minus x.
Okay, the negative 3 and negative 3 should get negative.
Equal to
Okay, now we're going to that other side.
negative 2x
Right.
minus 1.
Okay, does anybody have a question at this stage? This is where you really have to be careful combining those like terms and making sure what the like terms are. She did it perfectly.
Okay. And
Okay.
then the next thing, I'm gonna take the negative 6. I'm gonna put it in the other side.
Okay. So we're adding 6 to both sides.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna move it. That's what I did in here.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to do it that way then?
Yeah. No, can we start with the 2x? We're gonna have 2x plus 2x. That's what I
Okay.
did in here.
Okay, so she is taking this, she's using.
Yeah, moving it to the left side.
She's using the transposing method, which means instead of adding or subtracting the same thing from both sides, she's moving things from one side to the other. That's a perfectly legitimate way of doing things. And she said the first thing she wants to move is this negative 2x. She wants to move it to this side.
We're gonna change its signs, so it's gonna be positive 2x.
Right.
Plus. Yep. And then equal to negative 1 plus 6. Because
Okay.
we're gonna change its sign.
And she's gonna move this to this side.
Yeah. And then we're gonna do the like 2x plus 2x, which is gonna give us 4x equal to 5. We're gonna divide by 4 both sides.
Professor, I'm confused.
Who asked?
My bad, I'm not good at explaining.
Okay, I'll go back and re-explain this. You got as your answer.
Yeah, that is my final answer.
Okay, Everybody?
My
Okay.
bad, guys. I'm
Uh,
not
somebody
good
had
at
a
explaining.
question.
That's how I do it.
Okay. Do you want me to go back? Those of you who had a question, I'm sorry.
I just had a different answer for that.
This is the correct answer.
Yeah, I just got -4, so I did that wrong.
Okay, so let's go to what step did you get the same thing as her? Were you okay with this step?
I think with the issue that people are having, like when the line was 2x minus 6, this is Jonathan speaking, sorry, 2x minus 6 equals to -2x minus 1. I think the step after that, the step as subsequent.
Yeah, that whole
That's, yeah, I'm good until then.
that whole switching, yeah.
Doing it by the if you're not used to doing the transposing method, then you might find it confusing. So I'm going to go back and do it by the regular method that we use in class.
Yeah, I think people
But
use
I have to tell you that those of you who use the transposing method, it's totally acceptable and it's a perfectly good way of doing it. It's not the way I taught it, but it's perfectly acceptable. So I'm going to erase this and start from here. Is that okay?
Mm.
Is everybody okay up to this step?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's see what happens from this step. So we combine the like terms. This is she did herself. Now remember, we're working now first each side separately. So we're not looking to go across. We're just working with this 6x minus 3 minus 4x minus 3. And I see there's a 6x and a minus 4x. Those are like terms. And 6x minus 4x gives me 2x. And the -3 and the -3 are also like terms. And when you add a -3 and a -3, that gives you a -6. Again, if you're running into problems with this, just take out your calculator and do it with your calculator. Do -3 using your minus button, subtract 3, and you will get -6. And on the other side, the like terms are the 5x and the -7x, which gives me -2x minus 1. Any questions so far? We're up to the next step?
It threw me off because I thought a -3 and a -3 is a +6.
Remember the rule for
I straight up thought it was
or
0.
adding of like terms. So it's really of adding, of combining. Now let me use the term combining numbers. When the signs are the same, you add the two numbers and you take the sign that they both have. When do you get a positive? In what operation? If I had been
In multiplication.
right, this is
Not
not multiplication.
Oh.
This is,
You good. I was just confused. Never mind.
I've
well,
literally wrote
that's
0
why
for that. I
and
thought
I
they
know
canceled
that
each
that's
other
where
out.
the confusion. Again, do you have a calculator? I don't even know who I'm talking to because
You're talking to Kashira.
Okay, Kashira, do you have a calculator?
Yeah,
If you okay,
on my phone.
no, I'm not. I don't want a calculator on your phone. I'm giving you over the weekend. Everybody by Tuesday should have a calculator not attached to their phone, a 2-line graphing calculator. Now, somebody, I don't remember who, could have been Erica, I don't remember. Somebody had sent me a picture of a calculator.
It's me.
Oh, Cheryl, thank you.
Yeah.
And
That's it? That's the one?
And that was good. It was a
Oh,
good.
that's the one?
That's
I
a
have
great
the calculator, but I
Uh.
can't find the X on it. When you do the
Okay,
calculator.
no, on your calculators, there's not going to be an X button. What it's not going to solve the equation. All it's going to do is add and subtract or multiply and divide the numbers.
Okay.
So if I want to combine, let's say 5x minus 7x, I have to ignore the x's and just do 5 minus 7. That'll give me -2. So I'll know my answer is -2x. It's not a it's not one of the calculators, like, it's not a graphing calculator. So it's not going to do equations. It's just going to help you. And of course, it's going to do more things later on when we get to it. But at this point, what it's helping you with is the actual calculation of the numbers. Is that clear? Can we go on from here? Anybody have a question before I go on from here?
Go ahead.
Okay. So now we're at the point where we have everything combined. So now we have to get things, all the x's to one side and all the numbers to the other side. Now, you know, I like to get the x's to the right, to the left side, and the numbers to the right side. So the first thing I'm going to do, and it doesn't have to be in this order, but I'm just doing it because I see it first. I see this -6, and I want to really have the numbers on the other side. So I'm going to do +6. Of course, when I do +6 on the left side, I have to do +6 on the right side. This leaves me 2x. Over here, this gives me -2x. And I have a -1 plus a 6. Now, -1 plus 6 is +5. Okay, so I'm almost done. I now want to get this -2x from the right side. It has to come over to the left side. So it's a -2x. I'm going to do +2x. This will give me 2x plus 2x, which is 4x, equals, this cancels out, 5. Now this is an equation. It's not an inequality. I don't have to worry about changing signs or anything. It's just a regular equation. I just have to finish by dividing by my coefficient of my x, which is 4. So I get x equals 5/4. Now, don't get scared if you get a fraction as an answer. We're living in a real world where fractions might come up. So, as I said, we're not going to be doing everything. We're not going to do starting equations that have fractions, but if our final answer has a fraction in it, that'll work. Now I see Corey very nicely. Oh, what I did here. Corey in the chat, if everybody could see, he said do you know what the price of these are, Corey? He has 2 different calculators that he said look good.
I saw one for like $19. It was like a Casio on Staples and Amazon. There's one that was pink. I'll send a link to it. It looked good to me.
Okay, and
Yeah, the Casio is a cheaper option between the two.
okay,
Casio's like cuter.
and Cheryl also had one that she had sent. I think she had sent me one, and she had one. It was, what was it, $12.99?
15.
What?
$15 something cents.
Oh, okay. I thought I
Yes.
saw one that said $12.99. It was $15.99. Okay, which is also, I think it was also a Casio, if I recall. But all of these, again, these are good choices, and they're easy to use, and you want to get them as quickly as possible. Now, of course, if you're ordering it on Amazon, it may take a few days, and I understand that. I understand when your internet goes down, when you order something, it doesn't come when it's supposed to, all those things. I've lived through it, so I know that what you're dealing with, and I'll give you a wide berth to do that. But don't say, oh, I need the calculator for my midterm, so I'll order it the day before the midterm. That's not how to work it. You want to get and order it now, because you want to have it with you and start working with it as soon as possible. And I have to thank you, all those people who did this work. You did a beautiful job in helping me teach today. And I just want to go a little bit, unless there are some questions, let's go a little bit further now. And I'm going to start with, I think, some new material, because I think we pretty much covered both the equations and the inequalities quite thoroughly. Oh, Corey is telling me that the Casio he sees
And
is only $10. That's a major bargain. If you want, can you do me a favor and send it to my, that link to my email, Corey? So,
Okay,
and
no problem.
because I would love to take a picture, see a picture of it.
Send the link in the inbox, in the chat if you can.
Okay. So I think we have a good few suggestions, and as I said, a nice two-line calculator is usually does not have to be an expensive thing, but it's really something. And I have to tell you another thing, they last a long time. They'll last you longer than this one term. They really are built to take, I don't mean let your kid brother throw it out your sixth floor window. That's not going to survive. But in general, if you drop it or anything like that, they really manage to stay alive even in that case. Okay. You will see that there is a new assignment on Delta Math that's due for Tuesday. Now, if you haven't done your,
Professor, I have a question.
yeah,
Okay, I went on Delta Math last night and I was doing my homework. And my answers, I did the first part, the equations, and then I was doing the graphic ones. And I was getting the right answer and I would put the answer in and it was telling me it was wrong when I would put the graph in. But I know that each one, when it's a closed circle, like when you fill in the circle, when you don't fill in the circle, I know like the difference, and I would put in the answers and it kept telling me that I was wrong.
Something happened to me.
Here's what I'd like you to do. Can you take a picture of it and send it to me in the email? Because there's something about how you're entering it. It's probably not your answer that's wrong. It's the method of being, and
because it gives you two options. It gives you to put in the number, how the number is, and then at the bottom it gives you the graph. Now when I put the thing in the graph, it kept telling me it's the wrong answer, but I know it's the right answer. And it just kept giving me that glitch because the first one I got it right and it went with, it gave me the little green check, but then the other two, it kept giving me the red X's, but that's the answer. And when I would compare it, because it gives you yours and it compares it to theirs at the bottom, it was the same thing. And it just kept taking the wrong answer. It kept telling me it was wrong.
I'd have to see a picture of it. There's something, there's, because I know people have told me that every so often they'll put in, and they know they put in the right answer. It was just somehow the way they put it in.
Okay.
Did anybody
I'll
else
just
run
go
into
in
that
later
kind?
on and I'll do it again and I'll send it to you if it gives me the wrong
Okay, if you could do that, the best thing is just to send me a picture of actually what's
So
going on.
take a picture of it through my phone and email it to you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so as I said, that's due for Tuesday. And again, I'll tell you this again. Your homework is due on the date that the due date is given. But I give a late date, which goes to the end of the term. If you don't get to it on time, you don't get full credit, but you get 90% of the credit. And therefore, don't say, oh, I missed that homework, I'm finished. Do the homework, because in the end, I'm going to check to see how many of the homeworks are done. And if you did this, write a number of homeworks. Let's say I tell you at the end of the term, I'm going to give you 10 points for doing 20 homeworks, and I see that you got 20 homeworks done. Even if they didn't have 100% on all of them, it doesn't have to be, the grade is not what's going to be counting there. The homework grade is just, did you do the homework? And if you did all 20 assignments, and they're probably going to be 25 assignments, but or whatever, if they're going to be whatever, at the end of the term, we'll see exactly how many assignments are going to be. Whatever, the mark will be for the number of assignments done, not for the grade. The tests and quizzes are for the grade. And when we finish the next topic, I'll probably tell you that we're going to have our first quiz on the next topic, including the 3 topics that we will have done at that point. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to go on with our next topic. That topic is what's called absolute value equations. And of course, before we actually do those kind of equations, we have to talk about what does it mean when we have an absolute, oh, you know what? Yeah, let me start with that. I'll come back to inequalities later. What does the term absolute value stand for? And how do we work with it? And how do we solve an equation that has this absolute value symbol in it? So you sometimes will see something like this. There's a number, could be a positive or a negative number, and there are 2 straight lines on either side of it. These are, if you notice, I draw the lines long because I don't want you to think that these are the numbers 1. These are the what's called the absolute value sign. And the absolute value is telling you to give the number without regard to its sign. In other
So
words,
that was the positive 5, regardless of the negative sign?
yes, in other words, the absolute value of -5 is simply 5. You just drop its sign.
Okay.
The absolute value of 7
It's 7.
is just 7.
Okay.
In other words, if we're just, when we're looking at a number, especially a number on a number line, there are 2 things involved with the number. They're the number itself, and then there's its sign. And if we're only interested in what the number is, and we don't care what sign it is, we don't care if it's positive or negative, we just want to know how big it is, that's what we call the absolute value. When do we use absolute value, and what's the purpose of absolute value? Well, let's talk about what the purpose of the sign is, because once we understand what the sign is, we'll understand what it means when we talk about the number that without a sign. The purpose of the sign of a number on an integer is just to indicate direction. If I have a positive number, which means a number that either has a plus sign in front of it or it doesn't have any sign at all, it means it's a number that's going on the, it's on the right side of the 0.
So you're saying that the operation or the positive or negative is just an
It's not,
indicator?
when we're talking about the positive negative,
So you're saying it tells
not
you if you're going right
operation.
past the 0 or left past the 0?
Right, it's just telling you what direction. So
Okay.
if I have a number like -5, all it's telling me is that instead of being to the right of the 0, it's to the left of 0. So it's indicating what direction you have to go to. Now, let's say, well, we know here's the number -5. It's right over here on the left of the 0. One of my question is, how many steps, how many numbers are there from 0 to -5?
5.
And it's clear that it's
That's
5. It means you're going 5 to the left, whereas if you were going +5, you'd be going 5 to the right. But if all I'm interested in is how far did I go, I don't care what direction, then I'm interested in the absolute value. In real life, where would we see something that has positive and negative numbers, and where we might then interested in the absolute value? Anybody have any idea where in?
Temperature.
In temperature, right? I can tell you it's today -2 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not that cold. Thank God. Okay, what is it saying when I say it's -2 degrees?
Means it's very cold.
Very cold.
It means it's below 0 degrees.
Right, it means it's 2 degrees below 0. That negative is indicating a direction. If I said it's 15 degrees outside today, it's telling you that's 15 is a positive 15. It means that it's 15 degrees away from the 0, but it's positive. It's above 0. So again, that positive and negative sign are indicating a direction. If I asked you how many, if I asked you, okay, it's a -2 degrees, how many degrees is that away from 0? You would tell me it's 2 degrees away from 0. In other words, the absolute value of -2 is 2 because it's just telling you how far it is. It's not indicating what direction it's going. Another place you might see it is in your bank account. I hope you don't have a bank account that says -$100. What would a $100 mean on a bank account?
You're in debt.
That's exactly what it means. It means you're at below 0. It means that instead of you having $100 in the bank that the bank owes you, in the opposite direction. You owe the bank. So again, that plus and minus is an indication of direction. If you're not interested in the direction, you just want to know how much the amount is, that's where you want to do the absolute value. Figuring out the absolute value is really pretty easy, because if you want to find the absolute value of a number, you just look at the number. You drop its sign and you get the number. Even when you have, let's see if I can find a problem with even if you have a few numbers inside, let's say I said, find the absolute value of -1, negative parentheses, 1 minus 4 plus 2. Let's say I gave you a problem like that. What would you have to do?
We have to solve it.
Right, you'd want to find what this whole thing is equal to. And if you wanted to, you could stick it into your calculator because there are no X's in there at all. Or we could do it in our head. Now, if I were doing it in my head, I'd first do the numbers that are inside the parentheses. This is 1 minus 4, which is -3. There's a minus in front of it, and a negative becomes a +3. And the 3 plus the 2 gives me 5. So I end up with 5. So first I simplify everything that's inside that absolute value, and then I figure it out. What is the absolute value of 5?
5.
5.
Okay.
So you don't in that parentheses, you don't do -1 times 1.
You
You
could
do
do
Could
it. You could do it
Could
that
you
way.
go over this again, please?
Yeah,
I didn't quite
you
get
could do
it.
it that way. Do you want to do it that way?
Is that wrong?
No, it's
It's the
perfectly
same, you
fine.
get the same thing, then that's fine. As long as I know I can do it that way, I'm
Let's
fine
do
with it.
that again, especially, let's do it the way we learned how to do it using the parentheses. Now, I ignore the absolute value signs until the very end. So if I have a negative in front of a parentheses, it's like multiplying by a -1. So -1 times 1 is -1. -1 times -4 is +4. And there's a +2. Since these were like terms, I could have, what I did was I first combined them, but I could do it exactly the way we've done it in the past with the parentheses. We distribute the -1. Now I combine the like terms. -1 plus 4 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. And now I put it into the absolute value of 5. So that just gives me plain 5. Remember, you don't change the sign, you drop the sign. So if it's a positive number, it stays positive. But if it's negative, then you change it to a positive. You drop the sign. Is that clear for those of you who want me to do it again?
You said you drop the negative, if it's a negative?
Right. In other words, if I came out with the absolute value of -6, what would my answer be?
6.
Plain 6.
So the answer is always a positive number.
Right.
Regardless of the sign.
The absolute value can never be negative. It
Okay.
has to be a
Oh.
positive number. And we're going to, what we're going to do now is we're going to learn how to solve an equation that has an absolute value in it. What if I gave you an equation that looks like this? I'm starting with a really easy equation. What if I gave you the equation, the absolute value of x equals 5? And
Would x be -5?
It can never be a negative.
Okay. So there are a couple of interesting things. Remember what I'm doing. Let's think about it. I'm not finding the absolute value. What the statement is telling me is that I had some number that I started out with. It's my variable. I don't know what it is. It's an unknown. X is an unknown. But I have this unknown number. I took its absolute value. And after I took its absolute value, I ended up with the number 5. What numbers or numbers would I get that when I take the absolute value, it's going to give you 5?
2 and 3.
2 and 3?
Wait, I'm confused.
No, I just want to know, what could x be?
5 is what you're saying it is.
Obviously, one answer is going to be x could be equal to 5. Because if I do the absolute value, let's check it. If I replace x with 5, I get the absolute value of 5 equals 5. Is that true?
Yeah.
Of course. So 5 is one answer.
Oh.
Is it the only answer?
You're just removing the bracket from the x and just putting x equals 5?
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Could we put an equation in there?
It is an equation, right? I'm going to give you a method. I'm just trying to think it out. Then I'll give you the method. You want me to give you the method. You want the method already, but
I don't understand.
Just listen and don't write down anything. Just listen. Does it make sense that 5 would work?
Yeah.
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 Is that the only number that you can think of that would work?
No,
Who's that? Who said no?
that was me.
Okay. What other number would work?
But you could also use -5.
Right. What happens if I took x to be equal to -5?
Same shit.
Let's
Yeah.
see what would happen. I'm checking it. Remember, this is check. When I check, in place of x, I'm putting -5.
-5, it will still be
And
equal
what's the
to 5.
absolute value of -5?
5.
In other words, there are two answers to this problem. There's the +5 and the -5. I'll show you why on the number line that makes sense. To say that the absolute value of a number is 5 is essentially telling you that on the number line, your number is 5 spaces away from the origin. Now, if I want to go to 5 spaces away from the origin, I could either go to the right, and that would give me +5. That's 5 spaces away from the origin. But I could have also gone to the left. -5 is also 5 spaces from the origin. That's why when I ask you if the absolute value of x is equal to 5, there really are two possibilities for x. There's the positive value for x and the negative. Notice x is the number that's in the absolute value. The number outside the absolute value has to be positive, but then x equals 5 or -5 is your solution to this absolute value equation. Let's go a little step further. And then I'm going to give you a couple to try. What if I had given you this equation? Suppose I'd given you that the absolute value of x is equal to -3. What would your solution to that possibly be?
3.
3.
Yeah, the only answer could be 3. It's
Everybody agreed that it should be 3?
yeah.
Let's see, how do we check if it works? Let's check. You're saying x should be equal to 3. That means when I replace x with 3, I'm going to get a true statement. Is that a true statement? The absolute value of 3 is equal to -3. Is that true?
No.
No, that's obviously not true.
Why?
And now I'm going to go back to a statement that Emma made before. What statement did you make when I was talking about absolute value? You said the absolute value always has to be
Just a regular number?
positive. Didn't you say it always has to be positive?
Yeah, well, because there's no sign in front of it, yeah.
Right? Which means that the
Oh, I get it.
equation I gave you is false equation. It's impossible.
Huh.
There's no solution. You know how you write no solution? One way of writing no solution is to write the 0 with a line through it. That means no solution. So here's number 1. Anytime you get an equation with an absolute value, and it turns out that the absolute value is equal to a negative number, stop right there. Impossible. The absolute value always has to be a positive number. It can never be negative. Okay?
So, but if there was that -3 in the little bracket thing, then
Yes, that would
then the
that
answer
can
is
work.
3.
I can take the absolute value of -3, but I'm not taking the absolute value of x. I'm asking you, what is x? What is that number before I took its absolute value? Okay, so now I can give you 2 basic rules.
Okay.
Rule number 1, if you have the absolute value equaling to a negative number, there's no solution. Stop right there. Rule number 2, if the absolute value equals a positive number, then you have to end up with 2 answers. One is the positive number, and one is the negative number. And that's basically all the rules that you need for solving absolute value equations.
The one where it says equal,
Yeah.
that's negative. That says no
One
on
answer is going to be positive. Well, here, when the absolute value is equal to a negative number, it's impossible. There's no solution. But when the absolute value is equal to a positive number, then you have to come up with two answers. One answer being the positive number, one answer being the negative number. Okay, so let me show you.
Wait.
Yeah.
Can you run the second one back? You're saying there's two answers for every but I thought the answer can't be negative.
The answer can be negative, the absolute, because the answer is the number before it was put into the absolute value sign. The X is inside the absolute value sign. What could that number have been before I took its absolute value? That's what the question is.
Okay.
Okay, let me show you.
The number inside the two lines can never be a negative, but when it gives you the answer towards the end, when it's by itself outside those two lines, it could be a negative or a positive.
Yes. In other words, if I have a number inside an absolute value sign and I work it out, my final answer has to be positive. But
that's if you have a negative number inside, right?
But the numbers that were inside originally could have been positive or negative before I actually did that final step of doing the absolute value.
Oh.
Just like we saw, we could have a negative 3 inside an absolute value sign. The only thing is, after I work it out, my final answer can't have a negative.
Oh, so if you have a negative number inside the absolute value, right? When you work it out, it has to be a positive number. But when you're given,
has to be positive.
But when you're given, like, for example, the X in the absolutes and
Right.
you are given a positive number, then you've got to have two answers, which should be a positive and a negative.
Right, because what could be in here could be positive, it could be negative. Only when I finish it up does it have to be positive.
Okay,
And
so when
I'm
you're
looking
given,
when I'm looking for X, I'm looking what is inside here before I did that absolute value.
okay, so the X can be positive or negative, so that's why we need two answers.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, let me show you a problem. And then I'm going to give you a couple of problems to try and see if you figure this out, because when you're trying those problems, I'm going to take a time. Okay. Suppose I gave you a problem like this. The absolute value of 2x minus 1 is equal to 15. And notice I don't have a parentheses. I have these two straight lines. That's the absolute value sign. That is, it's more complicated than what we did until now, but we're going to see that the steps we use to solve it are basically what I just told you before. Number one, I look at the number that's on the other side of the absolute value sign. I'm taking the absolute value of something and it's giving me 15. I look at this number. It has to be a positive number. If it's a negative number, if this would have been a negative 15, I would have stopped right there.
Yeah, no solution for negative numbers.
Okay, but this is a positive number. So what do I do when it's a positive number? I write two separate equations. The first equation I write is that 2x minus 1 equals 15. In other words, after I figured this whole thing out, it might have been the number 15. And obviously the absolute value of 15 would give me 15. But the other possibility would be to take that same 2x minus 1. It might have been equal to negative
15.
Because if this whole thing added up to negative 15, after I take its absolute value, it would also give me 15.
So what are we really solving here?
We're trying to figure out what possible numbers could I give for X to make this statement a true statement.
Oh,
Remember,
so that's not the answer. The answer aren't those two
I'm
things.
not finished yet.
Yeah.
The whole point of solving an equation is to take a statement and make it a true statement. I want to know what values would make this a true statement. Well, first let's solve this equation. Neither of these equations are too hard. In order to do 2x minus 1 equals 15, I'll add 1 to both sides. That'll give me 2x equals
16, and that would be 8.
So that'll give me x equals to 8.
8.
The other is to solve this equation. In this equation, you're going to see the steps are almost identical. They won't come out with the same answer because this is a negative number.
Negative
But
number.
again, I'm going to have to add 1 to both sides. This will give me 2x equals negative 14. Be careful. Negative 15 plus 1 is negative 14. And when I
That would give you a negative 7.
And my answer comes out to be negative 7.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to check it, but I'm going to check this answer to show you that this really does work.
I'm fucking lost.
Okay, so basically when you give us these problems, you want us to answer it like this, giving you both?
You have to give both answers.
Okay.
Okay, so
Makes
let's
sense.
check. Remember how we check an equation? We take our answer, we put it into the question, and we see if it works. So let's first check with x equals to 8. I'm going to replace the x with 8. So therefore, I'll get the absolute value of 2 times 8 minus 1 equals 15. Well, 2 times 8 is 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 16 minus 1 is
15.
15.
And remember, this 15 is inside an absolute value because I just simplified this. What is the absolute value of 15?
15.
15.
So did it work?
Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
Certainly did. So x equals 8 checks. It works. Let's try x equal to, am I going off the board?
Mm,
No.
Okay, everybody sees this? X equals negative 7.
We all see it.
Ooh.
Okay, so here, you know what? Let me do it over here. Is that better?
Yes.
We're checking with x equal to negative 7. That means I'm going to go back to the original equation and replace the x with negative
With
7. So it'll be 2 times negative 7 minus 1, all inside the absolute value sign. Well, let's work this out. How much is 2 times negative 7?
Negative 14.
And how much is negative 14 minus 1?
Negative 15.
And so this turns out to be the absolute value of negative 15. Is the absolute value of negative 15 15?
yes.
Yeah.
So both answers check. And this is what the most common error in solving an absolute value equation is, the fact that people just give me one answer and not the other. Now, if you're doing it on an open-ended question, then one answer is probably half credit. But if you're doing this as a multiple choice question and you only give one of the answers, you're going to just get it wrong. So you must work. So here's where the number is negative. Stop right there, no solution. When this number is positive, we have to give 2 solutions. You ready to try one on your own?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Let's see if you can do that example. While you're doing that example, just listen for your name because I'm going to call attendance. Azia?
Yes.
Yes, okay, of course you're here. Nishia? Nishia here? Anna Belkis? Anna Belkis? Emma, you're here. Messiah? Messiah? April?
Present.
Good. Khadija? Khadija? Umar? Umar?
Yes.
Good. Yakima?
Here.
Good. Cheryl? You're here. Sebastian Gay. Does anybody know Sebastian? I have a feeling he's not in this class anymore. Stacia?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I see you. Natalie?
Here.
Good. Erica? Erica? I see you here. Were you here yesterday? Oh, you were having trouble.
No,
with
I emailed you.
Right, I'm gonna change it.
Technical difficulties.
Yes, I know you had trouble with your internet. Okay. I changed that absence to a present.
Okay,
Jonathan,
thank you.
Jonathan, I see you're here. Luke. Luke here? Luke Minot? Layla, I know you're here because you did a problem.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Ashley?
I'm here.
Okay. Kachira? I know you asked me a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jennifer, you also did a problem, right?
Yes, I'm here.
And you did the first problem, right? And Rachel Seeley?
I'm here.
Gloria?
Here.
Corey, you're here. I know you've been contributing. And Denisha? Denisha, are you here? No, I've got it. Okay. So the people who did problems were Emma, Layla, and Jennifer. You're getting, you get the extra credit for that. Okay, I see that some people are posting answers already. So let's see if we can do that. I just want to make sure that I haven't met anybody absent that. Somehow I'm missing one person. Is there anybody whose name I did not call?
That's you're not missing one person. I'm using my cell phone, which doesn't name me, also to make sure that if I go out, I can still hear.
Oh, okay, so you're on two devices.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so that's why it's adding up to 20 instead of 19. Okay, thank you for telling me that. By the way, Melissa is on. Melissa, if anybody's running into problems, you can send a chat and Melissa will get on and help you out with that. Okay. I'm looking at the answers and let's do this together. And then maybe we'll do one more and then we'll call it a weekend. Okay. I look at this problem. It's an absolute value equation. I look at the number on the other side. It's a positive number. I know I can go further. Okay? I go further by writing two equations. One equation is 3x plus 9 equals 21. And the other equation is the same 3x plus 9, the same thing that's inside here, but instead of being equal to 21, we equal it to negative 21. So we get these two equations, and we have to solve both of these equations. So in this equation, I have to bring the 9 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. That'll give me 3x equals 21 minus 9, which is 12. And then I'm going to divide by 3.
Which is 4.
And we get one answer, x equals 4. I'm halfway there. I haven't finished the problem. I'm halfway there. I still have to do the other side, the other equation. Again, it's the same steps. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. This will give me 3x equals, well, negative 21
Negative 30.
is negative 30. And when I'm going to divide it, I'm going to get x.
Negative 10.
And those are my two answers. And I have to give both answers, 4 and negative 10. And I see a bunch of people did get those answers perfect. Is there anybody who has a question before we do one more question?
No, I just want to, this is Jonathan speaking. I just want to stop you for a moment. Denisha, earlier today, she said that she wouldn't be able to go into class today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anytime if you have a problem that you can't come, first of all, I do put on, as I said, I keep putting on the recording, and I didn't do yesterday's recording, but I'll do both of these recordings today. I'll make sure you have all the recordings of the class so you can go back and review, especially if you missed the class. And if there's for some reason, everybody's entitled to have reasons that they can't come to class. I don't count attendance as part of your mark. But it does, if somebody is constantly absent, then of course their mark is going to be reduced. So there isn't a specific, if you take off a day or two because of whatever your personal reasons are, it's not going to affect your mark, but you have to be here most of the time in order to participate in the class and be part of the class. So I want to do one extra question. And I'm going to start it, and then I'm going to let you complete it. Let's say I had this example. I have the absolute value of 3 minus 4x, close absolute value, plus 2 equals 4.
Oh.
Now, what's more complicated about this is that aside from my absolute value thing, there's a number on the same side of the equation with the absolute value sign, but it's not inside the absolute value. If you ever get a problem that looks like this, the first thing you have to do is to isolate your absolute value. That means you can't do anything. You can't start figuring anything out until you know that what the absolute value is. So what you have to do is look at the number that's outside the absolute value and bring it to the other side. There's a plus 2 here. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. In other words, this will give me 3 minus 4x in the absolute value equals 4 minus 2, which is just 2. Step number 1.
Oh.
Isolate your absolute value. Get the absolute value. If there's something outside it, if it's added, subtracted. If it's subtracted, added. If there's a number in front of the absolute value, divide it. You only want to start.
Can you start over again, Professor? Sorry.
By itself. And once it's all by itself, that's when you want to look at this number and make sure it's positive. Because not at your start, but once you have your absolute value isolated, is this a positive number? Then I can go further. If it's a negative number, I have to stop right there. There's no solution. Can I go further with this?
What do you mean?
Yes.
Can
Is it possible to go further? Can we solve
Oh,
it?
yeah.
can we
Yes.
start again,
Okay,
please?
I'm giving you a few minutes to solve it on your own. Should we start to do it together now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Am I going to get two equations here?
Yes.
Yes, I certainly am, because this is a positive number. My two equations are 3 minus 4x equals 2. And my second equation will be 3 minus 4x equals negative 2. And now these are two regular equations that have to be solved, and each one will give me an answer. Here, I want to bring this 3 to the other side because I want to be left with just the x's on the left side. So I'm going to a minus 3 from both sides. That'll leave me now, this will leave me a negative 4x. Don't forget there's a negative in front of that. Don't drop it. Then the only thing we're getting rid of is the 3. That's leaving me my negative 4x. On the other side, I've done 2 minus 3. So that gives me negative
1.
And now I divide both sides by negative 4. I know I'm dividing by a negative number, but I don't have to worry about it because this is not an inequality. This is just an equation, so that doesn't bother me. Negative 1 divided by negative 4, a negative and a negative make it a positive. Remember, by division and multiplication, that's when you have two negative, it becomes a positive. So answer number 1, and I think it was Azia that got this answer, came out to 1/4. Okay, we go to our next one. Steps are going to be almost identical. Again, I'm going to minus 3 from both sides because I want to get the x side plus. Again, I'm going to be left with a negative 4x because all I've done is got rid of the 3. On the other side, I have a negative 2 and a negative 3. When I combine these two, I get negative 5. Both negatives, I add them, and my final answer is negative. But again, I have to divide by negative 4. So my answer comes out to be negative over negative again, which is positive. So my two answers, and I must give both answers, are 1/4 and negative 5/4. Any questions about this before we end class?
Yes, I'm lost a little.
Okay.
I get one, but the other one, I got lost.
Is there anybody else here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end class, except for those people who still are confused, can stay for a few minutes and I'll work with you. Okay, so Cheryl, stay a few minutes after class. But everybody else, you don't have to stick around unless you're really interested in doing this. Let me just
I will stay.
When it comes to homework, I did not include this in the homework because I like to do it first before I give homework on it. So we'll review this on Tuesday, but your homework, don't forget to go to Delta Math for your homework. Okay, so now Cheryl, you and I are together on this.
Yeah.
Okay, you're okay at this point, right?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna erase this part and just and rewrite this because it's bigger. I have the absolute value of 3 minus 4x equals 2. I'm gonna go through the steps again.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I have an absolute value equation, and it has to be all by itself, I can't have anything outside of it. If there was, like we had before, we had to bring that number, we first had to deal with the number outside, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so now we have this. Anytime I have an absolute value equation, I have to break it up into 2 equations. The first equation is just drop the absolute value sign. 3 minus 4x equals 2. That's exactly the equation, except it didn't have those 2 lines. You know what I want to, I'm going to stop the recording. I don't think we have to be